This week on Full Circle Florida, the thin red line between free speech and hate speech. The assassination of Charlie Kirk sparking a firestorm over the limits of what you can say and how you can say it. People celebrating his death online getting fired. Is that justice or a tragic irony? Does this debate cut both ways? Is free speech in America a myth? Our panel is here diving into this heated debate. Plus, my exclusive one-on-one interview with former Florida Governor Bob Martinez, sharp as ever at 90 years old, sharing wisdom on civility in these uncivil times. And we celebrate 50 years of the Tampa Bay Bucs. Radio host Rock Riley and former Bucs player Ian Beckles on the memories and expectations for this season. This week, as we grapple with the limits of free speech in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, I recently sat down with former Florida Governor Bob Martinez. From his roots on the streets of growing up in West Tampa to leading the state of Florida. Now at 90, he's a vibrant testament to wisdom and integrity. His style, a timely and timeless lesson in a world of harsher words, and a living example of how to make a political point these days without hate, but with civility and respect. Gerald Ford?
That was in Tampa when I was running for governor, came here to campaign for me.
Can you take me back to what it was like when you were coming up the ranks and compared to how we are now?
I grew up in the West Tampa area, an area called Los 100, meaning 100. Much smaller, obviously, than it is today. But the unique part about Tampa is from a very early stage, it was a cosmopolitan city, although it was small in size because of the cigar industry that brought workers from Europe and from Cuba, with Spain, Italy, Cuba, and the Germans making up that population in the early 1900s. So you kind of grow up enjoying the world culture, quite frankly. And we have very active civic organizations back then. My family belonged to a Centro Español, which had hospitals and clinics and cemeteries and theater, live theater, movie houses. And we were members of that. And by that, we were entitled to use all those facilities. And you had the Centro Suriano, which is still active.
How much of being the first Hispanic governor in Florida play into your identity? Was it an obstacle for you? Was it a challenge, or was it a strength, or both?
Well, it's interesting you would bring that up. There's a few things that was kind of interesting. The people that I grew up with, when I was in town and I would run into them and say, how are you going to get elected governor of the state of Florida with your name and you're a Catholic on top of that? And no Catholic's ever been elected statewide. And I said, I'm not running as a Catholic, and I'm not running as a Spaniard. I'm running for office. I did not come here to be different. I came here to make a difference.
How do you compare the current political climate that we're in Florida? You do have intense partisanship. You've had, culture wars recently. How do you compare that to the environment that you presided over in the late 80s and early 90s?
It's quite different. I never was called a personal name. My family was never brought into the debate. I never did it either. Mm-hmm. Today, there's no holds barred in terms of what's said, how it's said, what language is used to say it. Family's not out of bounds anymore. So it's very different in the political arena today than it was back then. I think when I was in public life, the debate was over policy, not over personality as much.
How do you feel about the current handling of the deportations under the Trump administration? And there's been, obviously several reports that some of the folks that are being rounded up have not committed any crimes.
Well, the first crime is when you come in illegally. That's a crime by federal law. So, that's step number one. Now, they're talking about crime that you stole or you mugged or whatever. But the truth of you come in here illegally, that in itself is already a crime. A country that can't control its borders will eventually lose itself. People that are desperate in other countries, on which there are many millions of them, if all were to pile into the United States, we would become one of them, because you can't maintain a system that outgrows who you are. So I think it's important that we have immigration, but it's orderly immigration, and immigration that enhances the United States itself.
Are you optimistic, or are you a realist? What do you think people change with the times and adapt?
Well, Miami just became the #1 city in the world where people move to from around the world, replacing London. So that kind of tells you something. Wall Street, more and more seeing Miami, Broward area as a place to relocate their offices. My guess is they elect a socialist in New York City. There's going to be a lot more exodus. And I think all that wealth, a lot of that Wall Street activity is going to move to the state of Florida.
It sounds like the future is bright, and you were a part of building that future.
Well, I was fortunate. The grandson of Spaniards was able to get elected to be the first Hispanic governor of the state of Florida. Somebody said, well, there were Spanish governors. Yeah, but they were not a state, and they were not elected.
Right.
They were appointed, and they were not a state.
It's true.
So therefore, I am the first one of that nationality, of that heritage, I should say, that became a governor of the state of Florida.
Well, you've made us all very proud, and thank you for taking the time.
Oh, thank you. Good to be with you this morning.
Thank you, Governor. Next on Full Circle Florida, the limits of free speech in America. Was it ever really free? Are we responsible for what we say? Welcome back into Full Circle Florida. Let's bring in my partner in politics and our voice of reason, Dr. Susan MacManus, and our legal expert, Janae Thomas. I think it's time to have, a reality check on what free speech actually means in America. I mean, if you're under the assumption that free speech means you can say whatever you want without consequence, have we ever lived in that country? Because it seems like there's always been a consequence for free speech, whether you're the one defending it on a battlefield or whether you're the one expressing it. We've seen this week, obviously in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, people all over the country, posting things, celebrating his death. Some have been fired. Obviously what happened with Jimmy Kimmel being pulled off the air. So what is the actual legal line protected when it comes to free speech and harmful hate speech that is not protected? Is there a legal definition of that?
So what we're seeing is that legal definition is being re-explored over the last week or so, because everybody had their own understanding. We know the First Amendment applies to government action, not private action. However, private institutions have the ability to implement their own rules as well. So we're going to see over the next few weeks, months, this being battled out in the court system. So,
and that's the interesting part of this, because if you're going to just talk about Jimmy Kimmel being an employee of a major company, just some context for maybe this isn't being reported enough, but there's a deal on the table between Disney and ESPN and Red Zone to have a merger. And it comes at a time where broadcast companies increasingly are financially vulnerable. They need the FCC, which is under the Trump administration, to sign off on the deal. Jimmy Kimmel comes along, says something that obviously causes some anger at a time when people are extra sensitive. Is this more about free speech or money?
Well, clearly, if you look at his ratings, and of course businesses do have the right to look at the bottom line, his ratings were really almost plummeting, a straight down line of people that were looking at that program. So obviously that had to be one of the components as well. Let's be honest, economics drives a lot of things.
There have been times in history where free speech was limited. Historically, World War I, Charles Schenck convicted under the Espionage Act for protesting the draft. World War II, the government cracked on media to prevent information leaks. The McCarthy era, the fear of communism, Vietnam, anti-war activists targeted, in some cases killed in Ohio, Kent State. So has free speech in America ever truly been free, or has there always been a price to pay?
always been a price to pay, whether it's even alienated friends. Look at what happens now. You could be friends with somebody and you've talked about something political. All of a sudden, they don't want to talk to you anymore. There's consequences everywhere. Free speech has never been that you can say anything you want, anytime you want, wherever you want, to whomever you want. It doesn't work like that.
The irony, I think, is that Charlie Kirk, you could argue, sacrificed his life for freedom of speech. And here we have people who are getting fired exercising freedom of speech, critical of him. Is that lost on anyone? Am I missing something here?
No, what you're sort of missing is that we've got an example in our world of politics on this issue, like everything else, of the, no, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. No, you're undermining free speech. No, you're undermining speech. No, you're causing violence. No, you're causing violence. It is right now an epidemic of polarization that now has taken a very ugly direction.
Yeah, and I got to wrap it up. I know we could talk about this all day, but the idea, Janae, that everything is spelled out in the First Amendment just doesn't seem to be true, at least right now.
It is not. It's never all spelled out in the Constitution. Nothing is ever spelled out. That's what lawyers are for, and that's what we're going to be figuring out.
All right, a living lesson in real time. Guys, thank you for being here with us. I appreciate it. Next on Full Circle Florida, 50 seasons of the Tampa Bay Bucs with a 2-0 start. They're gearing up for their home opener in those throwback uniforms. And I sat down with my pals at South Tampa's press box to talk all things Bucs, past, present, and future. Welcome back. The Bucs are marking 50 seasons this year, and with a 2-0 start, they're charging into Ray J for their home opener against the Jets, rocking those iconic throwback uniforms. I sat down at South Tampa's legendary press box with local radio host Rock Riley from WDAE and former Bucs player Ian Beckles for a look back and a look forward. I went to YouTube and I found the first Bucs game I ever went to. It was not, and I'm dating myself. It was 1989, New Orleans Saints at home. Obviously, the old sombrero. You may have played in that game. We won.
That's a year before I got
That was a year before.
Yeah.
Vinny had a good game that
Well, how
day.
old were you?
Okay, I was I was 12 years old.
So how are you dating yourself if I'm on the football field? How's that happening?
I was too old to play.
The older I get, the more I'm interested in the past and how it all started. In 76, and everyone knows they didn't win a game for like 2 years almost.
Yes, from those bad years to where it is now, it's almost considered one of the model franchises in the NFL.
Ian, do you remember your first game, what that was like?
Of course, yeah. And we weren't that good back then. At that time, the Buccaneers had never won under 40 degrees. They never won on the West Coast. And they never won, period. They just, they were just a perennial loser. And when I got here in 1990. And when I left in 96, that's when it was kind of on the upswing with Tony Dungy.
I remember as a kid thinking, if we can just go 7-9 this year, that was all I wanted.
I think what's cool is there was the Doug Williams era where he wanted to stay, but Hugh Culverhouse, and he was cheap. Jimmy Giles, those guys, they're still around. They were here the other night for the 50th, and then there were lean years again, and Ian knows all about that. But it really, he mentioned it, it was Tony Dungy. It was Tony Dungy and those players believing in him. He was a coach that never swore, never said a curse word. Where can you get an NFL coach that never swears? But they believed in him, they turned it around. That was the big turning point for me.
Dungy almost struck me as the kind of guy that guys would walk through fire for, and he never had to raise his voice to do it. I don't know of another leader that really pulls that off like him. I don't know what is that secret?
I don't think it's a secret. I just think it's being genuine. He's a genuine person. Like, I'm not a religious person, but I applaud whatever he's doing, okay? Because nobody else is doing it like that.
There's so many guys that to me do embody that Tampa Bay attitude. Baker Mayfield is one of them. He looks like Tampa Bay, but Mike Evans is somebody else who I just think he is Tampa. He's synonymous now, and he's been here a long time, with the city. It's like they're one and the same.
We're evaluating somebody who's still on the football field. And there's been a few guys, and if you look up at the Leroy Selmans, you look up at the Warren Sapps and Derek Brookses, those are three different people, okay? And Mike Evans is the one guy who you can put in the same category of a Leroy Selman and a Derek Brooks on and off the field.
He's chasing history, and so that's another reason to watch. Every game he puts in, and every season now is kind of a gift. He's going to break some records, and then you start comparing him to people like Jerry Rice.
I think we can all remember when he was chasing the 1,000-yard season last year again. It was crucial. If they would have fumbled, if they would have screwed up, and when he got it, the reaction in the stands, on the sidelines, Mike Evans, Josh Grizzard, who's the new offensive coordinator, he was talking about it just the other day. That was an unbelievable moment. It really was. And so, like, that shows you what kind of man he is. And they want to win, but they want to get him that record.
So I have visions of Super Bowl every year. What are your expectations this year?
Every year is different. It really is. So last year they scored 29.5 points, and they've got a running attack, and they've got Baker Mayfield, and they've got the receivers. Grizzard kind of was in the building and great with third down, so you would assume that they're going to score 30 points a game, but the NFL doesn't work like that. Still, to me, is the defense. I got to see it. You're counting so much on Hassan Reddick and Yaya Diaby to get to the quarterback. Vita Vea is incredible, but sometimes he's not in there all the snaps. I think he could give you some more. The defense had too much cushion last year. Antoine Winfield looks healthy. He's going to be good. So to me, it's still going to be a question on the defense. I'm not sold, but I do believe that they should be able to win the NFC South.
I would say this to anybody who's questioning the Buccaneers. Who in the NFC could we not beat? Right? So for the Buccaneers to get to the Super Bowl wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world. That being said, there's got to be some ifs, okay? It's got to be if Antoine Winfield Jr. gets back to where he was playing, if we get something from Reddick, if Vita Vea stays healthy, if Chris Godwin. So there's a lot of ifs out there. Because right now I don't think we're a complete football team, but in 4 weeks from now it's gonna start coming together a little bit, and we'll see a little bit more what we have.
What's my favorite Bucs memory? And this is not one that I was actually by myself at my then girlfriend, now wife's apartment, and I was by myself the day that they played Philadelphia to win that game. The neighbors must have thought I was crazy because I was yelling so loud at the TV.
Why weren't they watching?
Rondé Barber,
Why
yeah.
weren't the neighbors watching?
Yeah.
Right?
And actually, I wanted to be by myself because I knew I was going to be nuts that whole game.
It's intercepted at the 10 to the 20. He's gone.
And when he made that interception, and it was pay dirt, and you knew we were going to the Super Bowl. It was so surreal.
Me, it was at the Super Bowl, standing in the end zone. They win it. We're going on live. We go on live. And they killed the Oakland Raiders. Mm-hmm. Brad Johnson comes out of the locker room, comes over to me, goes, "Hey, Rock, are you on?" And I'm like, "Brad, we're in commercial. Dude, go back and celebrate, man, with your friends." And I'm like, what a nice guy.
Yeah. For me, it would be my first game that I played in Detroit. Started as a rookie beside Tony Mayberry, who was also a rookie. We went to Detroit, won the game. I think we had 170 yards rushing, no sacks, no pressures. It was a good game.
I think the team will be around 50 years from now. Do you have confidence that this franchise just continues to get better and better and will have that kind of staying power?
Buccaneer fans were up here for 10 years with Tony Dungy. Then John Gruden came here, we won the Super Bowl, then we came down for another 10 years, then we went back up, then we went, so it's a cyclical thing, and we're gonna go back down, okay? Because that's just the way it goes.
But when we go down, we'll still love them. That's when you know you're,
that's right.
For me, it's ride or die, baby.
There you
Bucs
go.
all the way. Thank you guys for being here.
Pleasure.
Thanks for coming by.
My pleasure.
My
pleasure.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you. Full Circle Florida continues after this. Thanks for watching us here on Full Circle Florida. We hope you'll join us again here next week. Make sure to add our free 24/7 streaming news channel, Tampa Bay 28 Plus.